Everybody, welcome to another GDevelop tutorial. In this video series, I'm going to show you how to make a very simple maze game. This is the first game that I'm having my students make to get used to GDevelop and how it works. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make a folder structure to save your game. So I'm on a Mac right now. I'm going to be on my desktop. I'm going to right mouse click and I'm going to left mouse click, choose new folder. I'm going to go ahead and call this projects. Go inside the folder and I'll right mouse click one more time, choose new folder, and I'll call this maze game. There we go. Okay, I can close that now. All right, I'm going to go ahead and launch GDevelop. If you get a little error message like that, that's fine. Just click on OK. All right, so I'm going to click on Create a New Project, and before I click on Empty Game, I need to click right up here where I tell GDevelop where the project is going to be saved. So here's the folder structure. I'm going to click on Choose Folder. I'm going to go to my desktop, open up the Projects folder, select the Maze Game folder, and click on Open. And you'll now see that this is being saved into my Maze Game folder. Now I can go ahead and choose Empty Game. Now what we want to do is we want to create a scene. So I'll click right here to add a scene. I'll click on these three little dots to rename the scene, and I'll just call it Maze. Press Return. And to open up the scene, you just double click it with your mouse, and there we are. So we have the Projects panel, we have the game world right here in the middle, and we have the objects panel over here. If you don't see your properties panel, sometimes it's closed like that, you can come up here and in the top right, this button here with the little blue pencil will open up your properties panel. Okay, and you can kind of resize your properties panel, and you can resize your objects panel as well. All right, so we're going to create a really simple maze game with a player, some walls to navigate around, and a goal object for the player to find. So I'm going to start off with an object, and it's going to be a sprite. I'm going to rename this player. And then down here in the bottom right-hand corner, click on Add an Animation. Even if you are not making an animation, you still have to click on that button to give yourself a graphic. So this is the button you would press if you are going to load up an image you made in another paint program, or if you downloaded one from the web. We are going to create one from scratch, so we're going to click on Edit with Piskel. Now when you do that, you're greeted with Piskel here, and I'm going to go ahead and scroll outward. So over here on the right, you see a big old toolbar that pops up. You can click on any one of these buttons, and that will collapse and close. Okay. Now, let me go ahead and, I don't know why, but it's having a little bit of trouble. Okay, so I'm not sure why, but it was a little bit frozen there. So all I did was I just clicked on Save, and then I just went back to Edit with Piskel, and it was fine. So I'm using my scroll wheel to zoom in and zoom out. You always want to zoom out so that you can see the four edges of your canvas so you know what you're doing. Okay, so I'm just going to give you the basics of Piskel. You have four brush sizes here, from smallest to largest, right up here. You have the pen tool. This is what allows you to draw. You have the paint bucket tool, which will allow you to fill with solid colors. You can undo by pressing Command Z. When you press Command Z, it'll undo the last action you took. If you make a closed shape like this circle or this triangle, you can click on the paint bucket tool and you can fill those shapes. You also have the eraser tool where you can come in and you can just simply erase. Down here at the bottom, you'll see two squares. The first one is your primary color, and that's your left mouse button. So you choose your color, you choose the color over here as well from the rainbow strip. You choose your color here. You can get pure white. You can get a solid color, or you can go all the way down to black. So now I can go ahead and I can draw in blue. you'll notice that your secondary color has this checkerboard pattern, and that means transparency. So if I use my right mouse button and I draw, I am going to erase. So left mouse button is laying down paint, right mouse button is erasing paint. Okay? If you ever accidentally click on a primary color and you choose this, you choose the checkerboard, you are now drawing with transparency. So generally you don't want to have both of these with transparency. You want to have one of them with paint and then the other one just like that. All right, so I'm going to erase. I'm going to choose the large size, and then I can just go ahead and hold down the right mouse button and I can go ahead and draw. So you can make anything you want here for this tutorial. You can make a stick figure, you can make a character. The only thing you want to make sure of is that you want to make sure that your character takes up this full square for the sprite. In other words, if I was going to draw a stick figure, I would want the character's head to be up here. And I'm drawing with a mouse, so it's going to be pretty bad. And I want the legs or the feet to come all the way down to the bottom, and then I could go ahead and have the arms in here. If I do that, you'll see over here you get a preview. So in other words, you wouldn't want to make it really small. Like you wouldn't want to make it really small like this, because then it wouldn't show up really well. It's going to be so itty bitty. All right, so I paused the video and here's my character here. Maybe I'll give him a couple little freckles. Just on his cheek there, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to call that finished and we'll press save. So there's my character right there, and I'll click on apply. I can now drag and drop my character into the scene, and there he goes. So that's good. Now you can click and you can drag and you can make your sprite bigger, but then it gets pixelated and blurry and doesn't look good. So there we go. Okay, the next object we need to make are our walls. So we're going to click over here on Add Object. This time we're going to do a tiled sprite. So we're going to go ahead and rename it to Wall. You could select an image that you've already made, or you could create one from scratch. Now notice that the default width and height is both 32 by 32 pixels. We'll change that a little bit later because I think we'll need to make it bigger, but for now we'll leave it like that. We'll click on Create and then click on Edit with Piskel. And again, you're back into the Piskel environment. You'll see here that when you open up Piskel for the first time, you are actually on what's called the Resize Panel, and it's this little button here. And you'll see that it's reminding you that your sprite is 32 pixels by 32. I will show you at a later point how to make this bigger. You could certainly type in a bigger number like 64 by 64, and you could make it bigger. But for now, I'm going to click on this button here and collapse that panel. Okay, so here's my preview over here. And whatever I draw with, so for instance, if I draw now, if I draw this line, you'll see that I'm getting something on the outside. And if I zoom out, you'll see that you can actually see a preview of it tiling. So if I go ahead and I draw another line here, and then let's say I want to draw some bricks. So if I draw some vertical lines like this, to make this perfectly tileable, I need to make sure that it continues properly and that it connects and something like that. Okay, and then maybe I can do something in the middle here. There we go. And as I zoom out, you have to see if that works. It's okay, it's working. The bricks are a little bit bigger in some areas, but it is working. You can see that it is tileable. So just make sure that you're zoomed out enough so that you can go ahead and you can see that your illusion is working. So go ahead and draw a wall. It could be anything. It could be plants, it could be grass, it could be hay or stones. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and create a wall. Okay, so after a little bit of work, here is my wall. It's got a couple cracks in it there, and I'm going to go ahead and press save and then apply, and I'm going to go ahead and drag it out. When I drag it out, it looks way too small. And so of course I can click on it, I can drag it out like this, and it certainly looks better, but I think I want it to be a little bit bigger. So the way you can fix it is you simply come back here, double click, and I'm going to change the default width to 64 and 64. Hit apply, and now when I bring it out, you'll see it's a little bit more along the lines of the size of my character. And I can still drag it out and make it, you know, whatever I want it to be. So that looks pretty good right there. Okay. The last thing I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to change the size of the game. So you'll see right here, this box here, this is the size of my level, which isn't quite as big as I want. So let me show you how to do that. Okay, so to give yourself a bigger level, you're going to come up here in the top left corner and click on this very first icon right here. And you've got the project settings. You can go here to game settings and then go to properties. And you're going to see a ton of stuff here. But right here in the middle where it says resolution and rendering, game resolution width and game resolution height. So 800 by 600 is fine for a starting game and fine for like a web game. But we want to go a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go ahead and just change this, and I'm going to try, I'm going to do 1920, and the height, I'm going to make that 1080. Okay, I'll click on apply. And now you can see if I zoom out, and I'm zooming with holding down the control key and scrolling my mouse wheel, and then I can press the space bar to pan, and you can see I have a much bigger level that I can now start designing with. Okay, so that's it for this first video. In the next video, we'll start doing some coding so we can actually move our little player character around. And then we've got a wall that we need to make solid so that the character can't go through it. We'll make another object, the goal object, and we'll go from there. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, everyone.